reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable.
And this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his...
He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore.
Karoline Leavitt and Kaitlan Collins are at it again. But this time, the tension has reached a boiling point. Ever since Karoline took on the role of White House press secretary, their clashes have been nothing short of explosive, with Karoline consistently outmaneuvering Collins in their fiery exchanges. But their latest showdown? It's on a whole new level, leaving people wondering how Collins still has a seat at the table. What did Karoline say that left Collins scrambling on live TV? And could this be the moment that completely dismantles Collins's credibility? Stay tuned, because this is a showdown you won't want to miss. Over the past few weeks, Karoline Leavitt has fired off headline-making, some might say infamous, clapbacks at CNN's Kaitlan Collins, igniting more sparks than a 4th of July fireworks display. But their most recent confrontation has triggered a media firestorm so intense, it might need its own crisis response team. It all started when Collins, never one to back down, thought she had Leavitt cornered with this one question.
Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
At first glance, the question seemed simple, innocent, even. But make no mistake, it was a setup, a calculated attempt at a gotcha moment. Kaitlan Collins wasn't just asking a question. She was laying a trap, one designed to expose a supposed contradiction within the Leavitt-Trump camp. With her signature smug grin and confident stance, Collins thought she had her viral moment secured. But here's the thing. Karoline Leavitt isn't some rookie spokesperson stumbling over talking points. She's a political powerhouse. She saw Collins's move coming a mile away, and instead of falling for the trap, she flipped the script. Not only did she sidestep the setup, but she turned it back on Collins in a way that left the CNN journalists scrambling. By making it clear that access to the Oval Office isn't an entitlement for journalists, Leavitt wasn't just throwing a jab, she was delivering a mic drop moment. It was a masterclass in control, turning the narrative upside down before Collins even realized what had happened. Now listen closely to this clip, and then I'll break it all down.
So the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is.
Denied her prized gotcha moment, Kaitlan Collins dropped the act and showed her true intentions. The entire setup had one goal, to weaponize the Associated Press's so-called ban from the Oval Office against the Trump administration. The plan? To paint them as hypocrites, loud defenders of the First Amendment suddenly going silent when power shifted to their side. Classic media spin. Collins was certain she had struck gold. But here's where it all fell apart. Karoline Leavitt, always 10 steps ahead, wasn't about to let Collins twist the story. With a calm yet razor-sharp response, she reminded everyone of her promise to hold the media accountable for their misinformation, distortions, and outright propaganda. And part of that accountability? Making sure outlets like the AP, which have spread false narratives without hesitation, didn't get free rein in the most powerful office in the world. The message was clear: press freedom doesn't mean freedom from consequences. And just like that, Collins's so-called exposé turned into yet another self-inflicted disaster. But did she finally get the message? Of course not. Here she is, yet again, going head-to-head with none other than Donald Trump himself.
Mr. President, you won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
We haven't asked you to speak yet, please. Right?
Trump didn't shut Kaitlan Collins down for being assertive. He shut her down because she crossed the line into outright disrespect. This is his office now, and the rules are his to set. He decides who gets the floor and when. If he doesn't call on you, you don't get to hijack the moment. Simple as that. But instead of playing by the same rules as the rest of the journalists in the room, Collins tried to bulldoze her way through. Trump wasn't silencing the press. He was maintaining order, ensuring that every reporter had a fair chance to ask their questions. The smartest move for Kaitlan? Wait her turn like a professional. But throwing a tantrum for attention? That's more CNN's style. And Trump? He wasn't done with her just yet. In fact, while answering a completely separate question about Mitch McConnell, he took one last shot, just to remind her exactly who's in control.
RFK Jr. as the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I feel sorry for Mitch. And I was one of the people that he wanted to go to the end and he wanted to stay leader. He's not equipped mentally. He wasn't equipped 10 years ago mentally, in my opinion. He'd let the Republican Party go to hell. If I didn't come along, the Republican Party wouldn't even exist right now. Mitch McConnell never really had it. He had an ability to raise money because of his position as leader, which anybody could do. You could do it even. And that's saying a lot.
Donald Trump knows how to deliver a brutal takedown, and this time, Kaitlan Collins was on the receiving end of a savage one with just a few sharp jabs. He had her scrambling, searching for a comeback that never came. Then came the knockout punch. He locked eyes with her and, with casual precision, declared that she was just as incompetent as Mitch McConnell. The room froze. The weight of that insult hit instantly. Collins walked in thinking she could steer the conversation, but instead, she found herself publicly dismantled. This wasn't just a casual dig, it was a calculated strike that exposed her bias, flimsy arguments, and failed attempts at playing hardball. Trump wasn't just shutting her down. He was reminding her, and the entire press corps, who really holds the reins. And judging by Kaitlan's stunned expression, she got the message loud and clear. But Trump? He wasn't finished yet.
This should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his...
He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility.
Let's be real. This isn't Trump's first showdown with CNN. His battles with the network go way back. And if there's one thing he's perfected, it's exposing their bias in real time. Remember Jim Acosta? The so-called journalist who made a name for himself by interrupting Trump and grandstanding during press briefings, only to have his White House credentials revoked after one too many outbursts. Well, now Kaitlan Collins is following in Acosta's footsteps. Same network. Same tactics. Same humiliating result. Trump has never shied away from calling out CNN's antics. And every encounter only proves how desperate they are to trip him up. But time and time again they fail. Because while CNN is chasing gotcha moments, Trump is playing for the win. You remember this infamous encounter between Trump and Kaitlan, don't you?
They went to the Capitol and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers. Why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it. So if you look at, on January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before, and this was in the form of Twitter. Now I use Truth Social. I think it's far superior, okay?
Trump made one thing clear in this exchange. He's in charge. While asking tough questions is part of journalism, there's a line between pressing for answers and blatant disrespect. And Kaitlan Collins? She crossed it. Trump didn't just respond. He reaffirmed his authority, shutting down her weak arguments with facts while she fumbled for a response. If she wanted to go toe-to-toe with him, she should have come prepared. But instead, she walked away with yet another embarrassing moment. And Trump? He just reminded everyone why he's still the one setting the narrative.
Everybody's on truth. If you look January 6th before 2:30, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on truth and I'm staying on truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
I love how Trump is pulling out the receipts and shoving them right in Kaitlan Collins's face, proving her, and the entire woke media machine, dead wrong. For years, they've pushed the same tired narrative, that Trump incited his supporters to storm the Capitol, that he's some power-hungry tyrant, a so-called dictator in waiting bent on ruling America against its will. But here's the truth they can't stomach: Trump did call for peace. He did tell his supporters to stop and respect law enforcement. And now, with hard evidence backing him up, he's tearing down the media's manufactured lies. One by one, the same journalists who spent years smearing him are now scrambling, twisting themselves into knots, desperate to craft yet another false narrative. But Trump? He's had enough. And right there, in front of everyone, he called them out.
Why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Even with Trump laying out cold, hard evidence, the media doesn't stop twisting the facts. The receipts were right there, undeniable. But did that stop the woke media machine? Of course not. Because to them, it was never about the truth. It was about pushing a narrative, no matter how many lies it took to keep it alive. To the woke mob, Trump could do no right if he called for peace. They claimed he didn't mean it. If he condemned violence. They said it was too little, too late. If he defended himself. That was just him playing the victim. This was never about honest reporting. It was about controlling the public's perception. This is the same media that spent years amplifying baseless accusations, censoring stories that didn't fit their agenda, gaslighting the public into believing fiction over fact. But now, Trump is standing his ground, challenging their lies with irrefutable proof. And they're freaking out because the more people see the truth, the less power the media holds. And that terrifies them. Meanwhile, Leavitt is still having a blast at the expense of Kaitlan and her woke colleague.
The historic proposal for the United States to take over Gaza, announced by President Trump last night, underscores this commitment. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. President Trump is an outside-of-the-box thinker and a visionary leader who solves problems that many others, especially in this city, claim are unsolvable.
Yep, Leavitt is spot on. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And if that's the case, then the left and the woke media must be completely out of their minds. For years, they've been setting the same traps, twisting words, taking things out of context, hoping this time will finally be the moment Trump or his team cracks, and every single time. Total letdown. Do they learn from it? Nope. Instead, they double down, recycle the same tired tactics, and somehow convince themselves they'll get a different result. It's like watching a bad magician try the same trick over and over, hoping the audience won't catch on. They roll out their big exposés, drop their bombshell reports, and just when they think they've got him, bam. Trump or Leavitt smacks them down with facts, logic, and an ironclad ability to handle the media frenzy. At this point, it's not even a fair fight. It's like watching a toddler try to take on a heavyweight boxer and get knocked out cold every single time. But hey, let them keep trying. Because if history has proven anything, it's that the left is better at losing than they are at realizing they're losing. And that wraps up today's video. Be sure to like if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.